Welcome back to the CSP Elite Baseball Development Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Cressey, and this is episode 128. We're actually closing out a season here, an 8-episode season. We're wrapping up, and we're going to have a little bit of time off as we stockpile some content and relaunch another season here in the next couple of weeks. But to end things off, we've got a longtime CSP athlete, actually started at our Massachusetts facility, I believe after his freshman year of high school. Wonderful dude who has college, obviously high school and professional experience to share. Made his major league debut last year. One of my absolute favorite guys out there. Really lots of good pearls of wisdom on this, ranging from pitch design to mechanics, to the process of interacting with coaches who may want to coach the different out of you. Just a really, really good head on his shoulders. And I really enjoyed this, despite the fact that I've talked to him a bunch over the years. And obviously trained him for an extended period of time. I actually learned a lot that we hadn't really covered in other conversations. So I think you'll enjoy this.
This episode is brought to you by Athletic Greens, the most comprehensive NSF certified for sport daily nutritional supplement I've ever tried. With so many stressors in life, it's difficult to maintain effective nutritional habits and give our bodies the nutrients they need to thrive. As a father of 3 young kids and a co-founder of multiple businesses in multiple states, on top of still being an avid exerciser, I know that busy schedules can really take their toll on us. Whether it's poor sleep, exercise or life stressors, environmental factors, or simply not eating enough of the right foods, we can wind up deficient nutritionally. This is where Athletic Greens can really help. It's a game-changing nutritional insurance policy. They simplify the logistics of getting optimal nutrition on a daily basis by giving you just one thing with all the best things. And that's why I use it daily and recommend it to our athletes. 1 scoop of Athletic Greens contains 75 vitamins, minerals, and whole food sourced ingredients, including a multivitamin, multimineral, probiotic, green superfood blend, and more. They work together to fill the nutritional gaps in your diet, increase energy and focus, aid in digestion, recovery, and supporting of a healthy immune system. This all can happen without taking multiple products. While most nutritional products come to market and stay stagnant, Athletic Greens continues to obsessively improve this one holistic formula based on the latest research, producing 53 improvements over the last decade. They invest in the most absorbable and natural source of each ingredient and go above and beyond in third-party testing to ensure their customers continue to receive the highest quality and best daily nutritional habit on the planet. It's lifestyle friendly, whether you're keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free, and contains less than 1 gram of sugar without compromising on taste. They put 75 ingredients through the NSF for Sport certification to come up with a formula that's trusted by some of the world's best athletes, including our own. Right now, Athletic Greens is giving our listeners 10 free travel packets with their subscription. Simply go to athleticgreens.com/Cressey to receive my offer. These travel packs are perfect for supporting your immune system, energy, and gut health when you're traveling for games, training, or simply when you're on the go. They can be a great counterbalance to less than ideal on-the-road food options. So if you want to bridge the gap between deficient and optimal and give yourself the best chance to get nutrient diversity, then head to athleticgreens.com/Cressey and get your 10 free travel packets today. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/Cressey, CRESSEY.
Today's guest is a left-handed pitcher who was raised in Massachusetts and attended Virginia Tech. Over 3 years at Virginia Tech, he threw 177 innings and was selected by the Cincinnati Reds in the 9th round of the 2017 Major League Draft. Over parts of 3 seasons, he worked his way up the ranks of the Reds minor league system before he was traded to the Angels in 2020. He did not play in a minor league game in 2020 due to the cancellation of the season because of the COVID-19 pandemic. However, on August 4th, 2021, the Angels called him up to the big leagues, and 4 days later, he made his debut in relief at Dodger Stadium against the Los Angeles Dodgers. In March of 2020, the Angels designated him for assignment, at which time he was claimed by the Cardinals. At the time of this recording, he's made 7 appearances, including 2 starts for St. Louis, posting a 3.09 ERA. Please welcome to the show, Packy Naughton. Packy, welcome to the show. This is very long overdue.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited.
You've been a CSP guy since I think age 15. You're one of the CSP Mass original guys, and then you've become a CSP Florida guy. So it's been cool to see your long-term development. And I actually counted the other day that you're one of 4 guys who were age 15 at the facility that are now in the big leagues. So
that's pretty cool.
Cool little lesson on long-term athletic development. So let's talk about it, man. But what was interesting about you is that you were one of those guys that had Tommy John at a young age. And you kind of did it before it was as normal as it is now. Like, we didn't know back then how these things turn out Talk a little about some of the lessons you learned with having the procedure so early in high school, and then maybe what advice you would give to other kids who are dealing with adversity that young as it becomes more common.
Yeah, kind of one of the big things that I kind of thought about was kind of I had to grow up really quick because I mean both of my parents worked, and so I would get out of school, and I mean it happened in May, so I had the summer, but after the summertime when I was going into the next year, having to kind of grow up and like get to rehab myself and like do all these important things at, like as a said like it happened the day before my 17th birthday, so 16 17 years old, and having to do all these things. And if I didn't do them when I was younger, who knows if I would be where I am today. I might have had setbacks or whatever it might have been. But I kind of learned to just grow up and like you got to figure your stuff out. Nobody's going to do it for you. And I mean, I think that that's partly why I've been successful in pro ball, is because it's all on you. If you want to do it, go do it. If you don't, nobody's going to tell you, hey, you got to go do this. Maybe at the low levels they will, but it's kind of just all come full circle, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But another thing that I was thinking about is it's never as bad as you think it is. One of the lessons that I was learning. I was a 17-year-old kid having this major surgery on my elbow, and I was making a decision that, okay, yeah, baseball, I guess, is going to be part of my life for quite some time. And at that point, I was like, oh, the draft is coming up. I'm missing area code. I'm missing all this stuff. Mm-hmm. It's not as big as you think it is. Eventually, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be, and you'll get there eventually, depending on, how hard you work and how hard you want to try and how important everything actually is for you. So yes, it's never as bad as you think it is.
When you look back on it, obviously you're a Northeast kid. It was hard to play year round. Like you're a guy who played multiple sports growing up and all that. When you look back on, causative factors, what in your mind do you think kind of played into it? There's obviously kind of like we'll talk about it later, maybe a little bit more of a high maintenance delivery and stuff like that. When you look back, what were the key things that you think contributed
to Tommy John surgery?
Yeah.
So I had a bone chip in my elbow from when I was a kid, and I had elbow pain when I was younger. So I got it x-rayed, like a whatever, and the showed this bone chip, and the doctor was like, it's in scar tissue, it's not moving. It might have caused a little bit of discomfort, but once the swelling goes down and once the inflammation goes down, it should be fine. So knew about that, and then one day just decided to get out of that scar tissue and go and mess up my UCL and my ulnar nerve. My nerve was pretty messed up too. So I guess that, but also, I long tossed a lot when I was a kid, like when I started first going to my pitching coach. And I think it attributed to some of the velocity jumps that I saw when I was in high school. But I also think that, throwing long toss probably 3, 4, 5 times a week, however much I was doing it, could have also had
I think we see that a fair amount nowadays is, those low grade injuries at a young age. Sometimes they're covered up when you're 14 and throwing 68 miles an hour. And then all of a sudden you get some arm speed, and it's kind of like nobody pulls their hamstrings until they start running fast. And I think we see that a lot. And nowadays there's really no such thing as a normal elbow in these 18 and 19-year-olds that are being drafted. So we just have to be mindful that sometimes the Tommy John unfortunately becomes part of the process because we're dealing with someone who may be structurally not where they need to be, even if mechanics are better, the nutrition's better, the sleep, the training, all that stuff is taken care of. So good that you learned the lesson at a young age.
Yeah, definitely.
One question I did have as a follow-up, and it's kind of occurring to me off of my initial list of questions is, so you're May Tommy John. And historically speaking, guys who have Tommy John early in the year seem to always struggle in the subsequent year. Whereas the ones that, that blow out in September, they kind of just know that the next season's not happening. And they kind of have that 18-month timeline until they come back in, February or March of, 2 years later. So I'm curious, when did you get back in games off of a May Tommy John? Obviously you were going into your senior year of high school when it happened. So did you pitch your senior year of high school?
No, I DH'd and played first base. They let me play first base. But what I did is I didn't end up throwing live until the summer after. So I didn't pitch at all. Yep. And summer after I went and played in the Boston Park League, just because I needed somewhere to throw in college that fall. So I was like, okay, it's either I don't have a travel ball team or anything that I could go and throw for. So I needed to get off the mound. So I went down to the Boston Park League and played for one of those teams for a couple of days. And then I actually went out to Virginia Tech and I finished off the rehab. I went to summer school out there, a couple classes under my belt. I think I went in July. I was there for July and August.
Okay.
And then towards the end of that, I was facing some live hitters that were still in Blacksburg.
Yep.
So I faced them a couple times towards the end, and then fall ball came around and I was good to go. So I really eased my way into it. I didn't jump full steam into it.
Yeah.
And I think that's why my recovery and my time coming back was pretty quick and efficient.
Yeah. We have a lot of kids that, they put a lot of pressure on themselves during it. You just outlined it. It's, kind of like a 14-month average return to play. And I always tell guys, hey, don't be afraid to take a day if it's hanging, if it's not feeling good. Even the best pitchers on the planet, they make, 32, 33 starts. There's going to be a couple clunkers in there, even if you're, Justin Verlander or Max Scherzer or Clayton Kershaw. Did you have days in your rehab, particularly throwing in some cold weather at times when it just wasn't awesome, or was it pretty smooth sailing?
Oh yeah. There were times when I thought I fully retore it. There were days I'd wake up and be like, oh my goodness, my elbow is absurdly throbbing right now. And that's just part of the healing process, your body's got to heal itself. You got to allow it to. You can't just rush into it and think, oh, I'm fixed. Tommy John surgery, it fixed everything. I'm good to go. Because you're not, you're going to think you are. And then the first time you have a hiccup, you feel something, you're going to freak out. So the more that you can kind of not freak out and just accept it, it's going to be all good. You're going to be okay. The better off you'll be.
Absolutely. And I think there's a good lesson there is you're asking a tendon to become a ligament. And no matter how motivated you are with your ligament, with your rehabilitation, there's a timeline for that biological adaptation to happen. And sometimes teenagers don't get that. So you're wise behind your ears. So build on that. I mean, what were some of the perks and the drawbacks in your mind of growing up in a cold weather climate as a pitcher? We've had Ty Beatty on here, and he was another guy who's, a 15-year-old CSP guy who's, since made it to the big leagues, and he had some comments on it. I'm curious what your perspective were about the blessings and the drawbacks.
Yeah. So I mean, mentally it just toughens you up. Like, you got to go out there. There were days when we were playing high school, and it was literally, and I was like, why are we out here? But, doing that and then having to go and play in Virginia and the minor leagues and in Dayton, Ohio, when it's cold, these guys that come from the southern states and they might go to a southern school. Yeah, for February, you might have a day or two where it's 40 degrees, 55 degrees, and that's the coldest you're going to get. You're not going to get 20, 25 degrees where you're playing in some snow or the rain is freezing cold. And, another thing, trying to find a place. I mean, luckily I had your spot to go work out, but a lot of guys, they don't have that. They don't have spots. So they're kind of going outside in the middle of the cold, and they're trying to find a place to throw, and got to kind of be creative. I remember one winter, I had to get my throwing in, and Dad, it just snowed out, and we were like, oh, we ended up going back, Stop and Shop in West Roxbury, and throwing on a plowed out part of the parking lot.
We interrupt this episode with a quick reminder that this podcast is brought to you by Athletic Greens. It's an NSF certified all-in-one superfood supplement with 75 whole food sourced ingredients designed to support your body's nutritional needs. I use this product daily, and a ton of our athletes do as well. Head to athleticgreens.com/Cressey and claim my special offer today for 10 free travel packs with your first purchase. I'd encourage you to give it a shot too, especially because of this great offer and because it gives you peace of mind knowing that you're covering all your nutritional bases. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/Cressey, CRESSEY, to get that special offer.
So, building on this cold weather kind of dynamic, you went a little bit further south. You went to Virginia Tech for your college career. And I'm actually really intrigued because your college, kind of timeline was unique. So you were 9-10 in your career at Virginia Tech over 3 years, and you never had an ERA, below 4.9. So in your sophomore and junior years, it was over 6. But it was interesting. You went to the Cape after your sophomore year. You were a Cape Cod All-Star. You made 8 starts, had a 1.86 ERA, where conceivably the competition's even better. So I'm curious. That obviously catapulted you into the top 10 rounds in the draft the next year. What was the biggest difference between the two for you? Was it just aluminum to wood bats, or was it a mentality? What changed in that summer on the Cape?
So I think it was honestly getting away from school. At school there you're going to 6 a.m. You're going to the field every afternoon. You're around your friends. You got to go to school in between. Down the Cape, I just wanted to play baseball. My job was to go and play baseball. I kind of got away from other distractions that may have hindered my field ability. And the other thing, down the Cape, I'm the one calling my pitches. I'm throwing what I want to throw,
Mhm.
and I'm learning and reading hitters how I see it, not how my coach that's sitting at an angle like this can see it. I threw my changeup, I threw my curveball, I threw everything that I wanted to throw. Where at Virginia Tech, it was all kind of at the mercy of the coach and what he wanted and what he thought was best. So I think kind of being able to go and develop and do my own stuff really helped me.
That's interesting. And then obviously, this kind of continued. What's interesting is you've never had an ERA through minor league baseball until you got to the PCL, where we know nobody has an ERA under 4. So do you think it was a lot of the same stuff, that you got hit less in pro ball just because you had a little bit more ownership of the process and more conviction in each pitch?
Definitely. And it also goes back to kind of the lesson I learned in Tommy John. Like, you have to learn to take care of your own stuff.
Mhm.
I need to develop a slider or something that spins. It's on me. Every week that I go out there, what I do, it's on me. The preparation that I do, it's on me. I don't have a coach telling me, "Hey, go do this," or "Hey, go do this." They have pieces to a puzzle, and that you can fit those pieces in certain places to help you grow. But at the end of the day, you're the one making your decision, and you're the one making the pitch, and you're the one executing. So you got to know what you need to do in order to do that.
I'm always curious too. Like, we've seen some players over the years who thrive more as they go to higher levels, just because the access to information is better. You've been in 3 different professional organizations now. Was that something that was kind of a wealth of information when you were first drafted by the Reds? All of a sudden, you had all this stuff to look at, and you hadn't had it previously, so you started to learn about who you were and why you were successful? Or do you think it was more of just like the former stuff we were talking about, where it was conviction in every pitch and charting your own destiny?
I'd say it's more so the conviction in each pitch rather than the information. Now, the information helped me a lot. Don't get me wrong,
Mhm.
but I also kind of made adjustments along the way on how I pitch. Also, like I have also tweaked, done little things, not necessarily based on numbers. The numbers kind of helped, but I'm also kind of old school when it comes to my thought process in baseball. Um, so like numbers, they helped, and yeah, like I like to look at them as a guideline and where I can be and where I'm at. But I'm not going in there every day like, oh, my axis was a little bit off and my spin rate was a little bit down this week. Maybe that's why my slider was bad. Well,
Mhm.
no, I might have just been babying it and didn't have the conviction, and that can all play the role in why those numbers are down. Like I think there are other things behind reasons that can help fix you, so to speak.
Absolutely. You mentioned access. So you throw both a 2 seam and a 4 seam, and I think we're seeing more guys in baseball that are really chasing, kind of the elusive high profile fastballs. You throw them in relatively similar percentages. I'm sure the difference is, between righty and lefty and all that. But let's talk about the mentality on both, because there are a lot of pitchers that struggle to differentiate the two, and they wind up like blending together. So, when you throw your 4 seam and your 2 seam, what are the thought processes there?
Yeah, so 4 seam and 2 seam, I'm kind of, it's always going to be aggressive. You always want to be really aggressive through the zone with both of them. Kind of my thought process though with the 2 seam is I'm trying to get a ground ball with it. Like I'm trying to go after a guy and first couple pitches of an at bat, get a ground ball, or if I'm finishing them off, I want to get it to my spot, so I'm going to have a little, I don't have a crazy sinker, but I have enough where it's going to miss a barrel and it's going to induce a ground ball. So what I want to do is I want to kind of throw it low and away, or just where it's just going to miss their barrel, their bat path. Where with the four seam, I'm kind of trying to jam a dude and get them to I'm trying to make them uncomfortable at the plate. So usually I'm going inside or up, trying to make them uncomfortable, get them off of something, allow me to maybe open up another door, or open something else up, something that I can use. But really what I'm doing is, usually what I do is four seam is glove side, and then two seam is usually arm side. I don't like to really come across my body with my two seam, because then I can leak it back. Where my four seam, I'm able to really jam it in there and force it in there. So that's kind of like how I differentiate the two, and how I can kind of separate them and keep them separate. I don't try to make one do what the other one should do.
Do you have a different thought process on the actual baseball in terms of how you impart force to the baseball? Is there a cue that works differently for each one? I know some guys, try hard to get to the inside of the baseball on a two seam and actually pronate it. Other guys are say, hey, just trust the grip and rip it. Where do you stand on all of it?
So majority of me is trust the grip and rip it. But part of me, so my changeup is my pitch. That's my out pitch. That's my strike. So when I'm throwing my good changeup, I can really feel myself on the inside of the ball and feel how I'm getting overly extended and through it. With the two seam, that when I throw it good, that's similar to how I feel when I'm releasing the ball. So I wouldn't say that I like to think that, but when I feel that, I know that it's on that day.
You led right into my next question, the changeup. So we've had Beatty on here. We've had Kyle Hendricks, who gave like a changeup clinic. What are your cues to yourself? Obviously, you mentioned staying to the inside of the baseball. Like Ty talked about holding an egg. Hendricks has two different changeups, so it's a little bit of a different discussion. What are the key conversation points for you on that front?
Throw it. Yeah, because I guess I would say I naturally pronate almost. I don't know. I'm really good at getting pronation throughout the ball. So for me, I just like to rip it, just in catch play.
Yep.
Every time I throw it, I'm never throwing it just to baby it in there. I'm always throwing it with conviction and trying to get the same movement every single time out of it, because that's how I get it consistent. Like when I can throw it and I get the same movement inside to a righty, down the middle low, and inside to a lefty, outside to a righty, and I can get those three. When I throw those three in a row, I know that it's going to be a good day and that I'm doing everything I should be doing.
I love that. Talk to me about the delivery, because it's a unique delivery, right? It's very aggressive down the mound. A lot of people would say you collapse on your backside. Before we get into the ins and outs, I'm curious, how much have people tried to coach the different out of you over the years? Because it's been unique for a long time.
Yeah, I've only made one adjustment to it I started doing it when I was about 14 years old with my pitching coach Ace Adams back in Massachusetts. It's been people have tried to coach it out of me. Started in college, high school, no one ever touched me because I had my pitching coach, so everything was cool. But then college, they thought that there was a lot going on, and there is, but that's what makes me good. It's the funkiness and the quirkiness. And people that say that I collapsed my back leg, I would disagree. I would say that I used the heck out of my back leg.
Yeah.
But I would say in college they tried to change me quite a bit, and then in pro ball, only once did somebody try to truly change me, and that lasted about a day and a half. But the adjustment that I made in pro ball was actually probably the most beneficial adjustment that I've made to my delivery since I started it. So I straight up rocker, straight back, straight forward.
Yeah.
But what happened is when I would go back and start to come forward, my foot, I couldn't get it square. It would leak open. So when it would leak, I'd be having my momentum coming this way instead of this way. What I had to do was, instead of coming here with it, I just angled myself to an angle So that way it's easier for me to get my foot around flush with the rubber. And that created my better direction. And ever since I started doing that, I started doing that second half. It was literally the All-Star break. I changed it of 2018. And since that All-Star break, that second half, I think I had a 2.5 ERA. The next year I won minor league pitcher of the year with the Reds. COVID year happened. And then 21, I made my debut.
Mm-hmm.
So ever since I did that, it's my career has kind of taken off, and everything kind of fell into place. So that I will say that I did change it technically.
It was an adjust. Yeah.
I adjusted. And ever since then it's been great.
But I think the core competencies of you're aggressive down the mound, the stride is long, and Ace was with the Cardinals, and there was kind of a generational thing. And when they went to the World Series in 2013, you heard a lot about how up tempo and aggressive down the mound with Brent Strom's influence and all that too. And you were a guy that obviously benefited from it because you had the mobility to get there. You understood how to work into your front hip. So I think some guys just get overstrided and soft on the front side, but if you can make it work, it can be great.
Definitely.
You mentioned the COVID year, and I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but was it good for you? Was it a setback? I talked to Josiah Gray, and he's like, it was a huge year for me. Everything changed. There was a chance to work on stuff, overcoming, an injury. Talk to me about what that 2020 season meant for your development. Cause obviously you wound up as in the big leagues the next year.
Mm-hmm. So 2020 was an interesting year for me. I was living in Orlando at the time. I ended up moving back up to Boston. I didn't end up going to the alt site with the Reds. Reds then traded me to the Angels. Mm-hmm. Angels then called me out to LA with about 5 weeks left in the alt site. So between me being in Florida and getting my work in, I was working out because Ryan Newtoff was down in Orlando too. He's from Orlando, or he's from Chicago, but his dad lives in Orlando. So me and him were working out and doing stuff. It was a weird year though, because then I went back up to Boston, played in the same park league that I had played in for rehab with Tommy John.
Yeah.
So I was playing in that. I played 2 games, and then I got called out to LA. And when I was out in LA, it was I was with the new team. So, and I was only there for 5 weeks. So think about going to spring training, and then after spring training's over, you're done with that team.
Yeah.
So it was kind of there were just a lot of random moving parts, which I don't think I fully developed. I don't think I developed as well as I could have. I think I did enough to where it was fine, but I think that if I had more of a structured, steady, this is what we're doing. This is, you're not going to come out to the alt site, but you're going to be with the same team, or you're get an alt site with whatever it might have been. I think that I could have done a little bit more, but hindsight is 2020, and I'm a big leaguer, so I can't really say that I didn't do enough, or but COVID year it was a weird year for me.
I give you credit though, man, because there were a lot of guys that just didn't find a way. You're playing in the park league. It's pretty wild to think, you're playing against guys who are in their 40s, and the next year you're pitching in the big leagues against, dudes in the AL West, good lineup. So I think there's something to be said for that. There were a lot of guys that just waited for the world to do it for them, and you found a way, and over the course of multiple different states. So as you've become a big leaguer now, you've gone back and forth between starting and relieving. Is there one you prefer, and probably maybe more importantly, how do you manage your preparation for both in terms of both throwing and the training side of things?
Yeah. So for the past 2 years, I've kind of done I've had a lot of different roles. And last year was kind of a learning experience for me with relieving and going back and forth, because that was the first year I'd ever done it. So I never really knew how to train or knew what throwing program to get on. And, I had been a starter literally my whole career in college, pro ball, everywhere. All I did was start. So then what I kind of did, and at first I kind of panicked myself a little bit, was I put too much into, I didn't get this throwing done, or I felt really crappy today, so I didn't do this, or I didn't do that. And I put a lot of focus on the things that I didn't do because I would have been hot that night, or I threw the night before and I was going to be hot the next day and I needed to get ready for it. And I put a lot of stress kind of on that, and I needed to not, because now what I've learned is you got to go, you got to feel your body out, and you got to go with what you feel. And that's what I think a big thing is in being in this role is feeling and knowing how your body reacts to certain things, knowing how you're going to react after a lift. Are you going to be able to go in the game that night if you get your lift in that day? Because like now, so what I do is I lift twice a week. I lift on every Tuesday and either Friday or Saturday, because usually one of them's a day game, and I'll try to have it not be the day game. So I'll go same 2 days, whether I'm starting and relieving. If I know that I'm starting, obviously I'll adjust a little bit, but if I don't know, I'm still going to keep it. And my preparation, it's all the same. Every exercise that I'm doing, my warm-ups are always the same. My arm care is always the same. My routine is always the same, because that's what I have felt has helped me start and relieve. So kind of having that preparation and a routine definitely helps. Having that routine and knowing what my body needs to get hot and get loose and feel good every day is
I think that's a key lesson for kids too, is like if you wait for the perfect time, it's never going to come, right? Even as a starter, like you have this core routine you work through, and then you get a rain out. It turns things on its head, or it's a double header instead of right on schedule. You get that extra day. And I think when you have that core routine and you understand prioritization of like, hey, these are the highest priority things for me. It's it's a quality daily warm up. It's getting my arm care, my soft tissue work in, et cetera, et cetera. That anything else like is secondary. So you get the 80% in, and then if the 20% doesn't necessarily happen on time, it's water under the bridge.
okay. Like I know that, okay, throwing today, I'm gonna, usually I play not long toss, but I ease into it, and I mean I can flick a ball 225 feet. Like it's not taking stress on my shoulder really, but I like to go out there and I like to just elongate my arm and get everything moving, because that's how my body feels the best. And now I go on the mound every night, and I can feel good on the mound every night, as long as I'm not back to back. Obviously, that's a different level, but I know that that's going to get me ready each time I go out to the mound, and I'm going to be ready to make the pitches I need to make based on what throwing I do and what lifting I do. So
Yeah, I think it's tricky too, because you've gone long relief as well. Like if a starter gets knocked out, you might have to race in the second inning unexpectedly. Do you have any things that you've learned? Just do you get hot pregame and then just kind of avoid ever cooling off? Do you kind of stay moving? What's your typical, like, hey, call comes to the bullpen, how are you getting ready right now?
So what I do a lot throughout the whole game, and you kind of know early on if you're going to be needing a long relief role. Obviously, if the starter is kind of straight, he's got the bases loaded in the first, kind of around a little bit. And then pitch counts also play a factor into it for starters, so you can kind of feel it out. But what I do, and what I found has helped me, is the more that I keep my shoulder moving, whether lightly tossing some plows into the wall, or getting one of those the Indian clubs and swinging those around. I have found that I love the Indian club, because it's an easy movement. It just keeps your joint moving, and it keeps you just hot enough to where you can put it down for 30 minutes, and then in 30 minutes you can get on a mount, and you can still be able to get them hot within 15 throws usually. So I found that just keeping my shoulder moving, because that's kind of been the nagging injury, so to speak, throughout my career, has always been my shoulder. So as long as I keep that warm and keep that moving, I really have had no issues with getting hot quickly and being able to get into a game as fast as I can.
I like it. And you obviously have discovered like a good collection of things that are working for you. So I'm curious, like what takes you to the next level when you self-evaluate. And I think that's a key lesson that, a lot of young pitchers or young athletes in general, they aren't there yet. They aren't good self-evaluators. What do you feel like you need to work on, and how are you working on it day in and day out?
So one big thing that I've kind of been working on is just mentally being tougher than the opponent. And I know that it's going to sound kind of like cliche or whatever, but it's looking at the game and understanding the game, and then going in there and just anyone can get lucky on a swing. You can hit a ball that you execute and you throw down and away, and what you do, what you need to do, and eventually you got to just tip your cap. And those are the times where you can't get discouraged, and you can't be like, oh, I made my pitch, like, why do you hit it out? Like I said, anyone can get lucky. I can get lucky. I can throw a 90-mile-an-hour fastball right down the middle, and the best hitter in the world can swing over it. Like, you got to mentally know that you have to be tougher, be able to have the crap come your way and push it to the side and say, nah, I'm still the best that I can be. And you can do that every day. And I like to do it every day, is when you're watching the game, just like going through your scenario, if you were in, what you would do, and just mentally grinding along with whoever's pitching in the game at that time. You're going along with them. You're learning with them. You're seeing what they're doing, learning from that. And I think that that's kind of a thing that I've learned since being up at the upper levels, is seeing how these guys go about their day and how they've been doing it for 10 years. And you might look at them and be like, their stuff is good. Don't get me wrong. Everyone's stuff is really good. They're here for a reason. But, you've played with a lot of different people, and you've seen a lot of different arms, and a lot better arms, let's be honest, than a lot of guys in the big leagues. But it's how they mentally are just so tough and so locked in all the time. And that's what puts them over the top. So learning from them and being able to learn that was a huge part of getting to the next level and stuff.
I love the comment on watching baseball, just because when I worked with Schilling right kind of towards the end of his career, I remember distinctly him saying, I could never read swings in real time. I had to go watch video. And he's like, meanwhile, I could sit next to Pedro in the dugout, and Pedro would read swing to swing. Like, some people have it, some people don't. Obviously, like a Kluber has always read swings, and other guys haven't. But I think we've always assumed that it just takes place like in game, like that you're watching it, but you never bother to think that, if you're a starting pitcher on a 5-day rotation, you're only throwing in 20% of the games. Like, what's happening in the other 4 out of 5, and you start to hear about like pitching staffs like working together to like talk about what they saw the night before, and compiling almost like a collective game plan together. I think young players don't watch the game enough. You go to parks and things like that, people are all on their cell phones, and like there's something to be said about just like tuning out distractions and like seeing, in your case, how a Yadier Molina and a Wainwright kind of sequence guys and things like that. There's a lot of guys you can learn from if you're just willing to like tune out the distractions and actually pay attention.
Literally, and you can still have fun and enjoy your time at the field.
Yeah.
You don't have to be like, oh, I'm staring and I'm so locked in 24/7. No, like, enjoy your time. Just like when you're watching the game, just have in the back of your mind, like, hey, why did he throw this back foot slider? Like, and then why did he follow it up with a changeup? Or what? Like, why is it tunneling something? Or did he do something earlier in the AB? You're watching the guy. Oh, he fouled off a fastball inside. He was ready for it. Like, if he got a hold of it, it would have gone very far. Like, okay, why did he do that? What did I do to kind of tell him that I was throwing it there? Or was he just ready for it? Just there are a million different scenarios and questions that you can go through in your head.
No, I love it too, because you have this, the longer you pitch in the league, you have this sample size, right? You're in the NL Central. You're going to face Christian Yelich with the Brewers over and over and over again. Eventually, you're going to have, 15 at bats against him, where it's really on you. Do I go back and watch all the different ways these at bats unfolded, or do I just risk it to chance? And I think there's something to be said about trusting your preparation. You can have confidence in putting that time in on the front end. And I think that's really overlooked among young pitchers. And it's the crazy thing about it is, in pro ball and even in the college game, it's more available than ever before. Like, you can go watch that film if you want. It's just a matter of whether you're willing to take the time to do it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Everything's available for you now. Everything. There's not something you can't find.
I like that. All right. We always do a lightning round on the tail end of every podcast. So it'll be quick hitter questions. You can answer as short or as long as you want. But first one, favorite pitcher to watch and why?
So right now in the game, I would say it actually is Nestor Cortez. He's fun to watch. He does it all. He changes arm slots. He changes tempo. He spins the ball. He changes it. He throws up in the zone. He throws down. Like, he just does everything. And that's kind of like, I'm a guy that I can't just blow your doors off. I don't have a slider out of hell. I got to kind of pitch like that, where, I got to disrupt some time to get them off and stuff. So watching him now, I absolutely love it. But back in the day when I was growing up, it was definitely John Lester. Growing up, I love John Lester. He was just an awesome guy to watch.
That's great. All right. Somewhat similar, but favorite teammate of all time. You can pick them on if you want to.
Ryan.
We love Ryan.
Ryan, hands down. That's an easy one.
Give a close second to Reed Detmers for his no hitter as well, right?
Yeah, I would say Reed, but I've known Ryan a little bit longer, so
There
we
you go.
have to get to know me a little bit better.
Nice. All right, and then kind of two more that might be blending together. But advice to a teenage Packy Naughton, if you could go back in time and talk to you as a 15 or 16-year-old.
It's not that serious. Nothing that serious. Enjoy it. Soak everything in because time moves way too fast to not enjoy life.
And if you had to give some advice to parents and kids that are listening to this who are dealing with the Tommy John surgery in the teenage years, what's the lesson you think that's the most important?
Do the rehab, do the work, grind now, so that way your elbow isn't grinding in 5 years. Do the rehab, do what you're told, and just do it. It might suck, and it might cause you to be 15, 20 minutes late to your friend's house, or you might miss something. Missing a party or missing a family, whatever, now, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. The memory might be cool, but the memory you're going to have on a baseball field and doing something that not a lot of people get the opportunity to do, it outweighs the thing that everybody has a chance to do. There's going to be plenty of more family gatherings. There's going to be plenty of more beach days. Do the work, do the rehab, so that way you can hopefully have beach days when you're in your 40s. Like, enjoy life. It's never that.
I love it, man. Well, listen, this is really good stuff. Folks can find you. It's Packy_Naughton on Instagram, Packy_8 on Twitter. You're always pretty active and engaged on social media, so I'm sure people will check you out. This is great, man. Cool to hear a little bit of stuff that I hadn't heard from our conversations over the years. So I learned some good things in spite of how much we've chatted over the years. So appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, Eric. I enjoyed it a lot, and this was awesome. Like you said, long overdue. I'm glad that I got on.
That for sure, man. Good luck the rest of the way. We'll be cheering for you.
Thanks, Eric. I'll talk soon.
All right.
Yeah.